In 1872, the term police brutality was used in American media for the first time. A Chicago civilian was beaten by the police under house arrest. In more recent years, the subject of police brutality has been in the forefront of the media. Use of violence by authorities has escalated, and the major discussion has had an emphasis on violence against minorities. The modern awareness of the issue was sparked with the brutal beating of Rodney King in 1991 by LAPD officers. King was involved in a high-speed police chase, and when he was finally caught, he was told to exit his vehicle. When officers decided that King was resisting arrest, violence ensued. A video captured by a bystander to the event shows 4 officers beating King with batons over 50 times. When tried in court, the police officers were found not guilty. Following this decision, riots began within the city of Los Angeles. The riots persisted for over 5 days in 1992. The collateral damages of the riots included over 50 deaths, more than 2,000 injured, and damages amounting to over $1 billion. These riots led to massive reforms within the LA Police Department. Since the Rodney King incident and the LA riots, the federal government took action. They implemented the Crime Control Act of 1994, as well as changes to police training, stronger mechanisms for complaints against officers, and improved supervision. These changes, however, primarily only affected the city of Los Angeles, and the effects were not seen within other regions of the country, where police brutality was also a persistent issue. One example of this was a case that sparked major public outcry in August of 2014 in Ferguson, Missouri.
The images from this weekend of violence in the streets, stores being looted, and riot police with dogs barking and charging at protesters seem like they are out of another era, but this outburst of violence is going on in present-day St. Louis, Missouri. It all started with the fatal shooting by police of an unarmed black teenager. The FBI has now opened an investigation, but the shooting of 18-year-old Michael Brown has opened a wound in the community. The violence, which erupted in the anger following a candlelight vigil, has taken place in Ferguson, a suburban St. Louis.
Well, you know, he was my firstborn. Sweet, loving, dedicated. He worked hard to get through high school, and we were so proud of him. And for him to start a new journey going to college, we was even more proud of him. And he was just spending the summer at his grandmother's house. Never did we think we'd be planning a funeral. We was waiting on his first day of school.
That would have prevented that killing from taking place?
No.
Nothing?
No.
And you're absolutely convinced, when you look through your heart and your mind, that if Michael Brown were white, this would have gone down in exactly the same way?
Yes.
No question?
No question.
Tensions rose when police officers in these cases surrounding police brutality, including the case with Rodney King, the Michael Brown case, and the Eric Garner case, were not indicted. Many people are divided on whether or not this is a racial issue. Many are asking the question, do police target minorities? Based on statistics and research, many would answer yes. There is a disproportionate number of minorities to whites who are arrested or physically harmed by the police in our country. While blacks make up only 13.2% of the population in the United States, they make up the majority of victims affected by police violence. 25% of police officers claim that they have seen fellow officers harassing a citizen, most likely because of his or her race. 84% of officers have witnessed a fellow officer use more force than necessary to make an arrest. More than 10,000 complaints of police abuse were filed within the Chicago police force between 2002 and 2004, but only 19 of those cases resulted in meaningful disciplinary action. Under the NYPD stop and frisk policy, 85% of stops targeted minorities, while of the 8.2 million citizens of New York, blacks only made up 20% of the population. This violence leads to distrust within minority communities, particularly those with a large Latino or African American population. When asked if they trust the police force, most white Americans would say yes, but among minority communities, the answer is not the same. Social media has played a major role in spreading awareness of police brutality in recent years because people have been able to report incidents, spread their opinions, and organize meetings and rallies. Major celebrities came out in support of these movements. The Lakers wore t-shirts that said, "I can't breathe," during warm-up before a game. The Rams players walked onto the field before a game with their arms and the hands up don't shoot gesture. And many players wrote, "I can't breathe" on their shoes, and even members of Congress went before the pulpit holding their hands up in support of the movement. It has permeated into all areas of society and has garnered support by many. This acted as not only a way to instill social change, but also a way to remember the victims of police violence. In addition to using social media as a way to remember, people also turned to more traditional methods. August 14th of 2014 marked the first annual national moment of silence to remember the victims. On this day, over 90 vigils assembled across the nation to peacefully and silently express solidarity with the victims. In the United States and across the world, people recognize the International Day Against Police Brutality, which began on March 15th of 1997. This day, like the National Moment of Silence, focuses on solidarity against police brutality. In addition to rallies and protests, communities came together to mourn the loss of their loved ones through vigils and spontaneous memorials. Memorials such as these include candles, stuffed animals, crosses, flowers, and pictures of the deceased. Grieving communities were able to come together around these memorials, and they often served as a central component of memory within our society. Depending on who you talk to, the solution to the problem will vary. Some may think that there isn't a problem within our police systems, while others may argue that police department reforms or spreading awareness of the issue is the solution. However, there's no simple solution to an issue that has plagued our nation for years. The issue of police brutality against minorities is deeply rooted and can be attributed to a number of problems.